And as a kid growing up, I always heard my dad talk about making maple syrup with his grandfather, and this sounded like a great idea. So, being the romantic that I am, for Christmas I gave my wife maple syrup making equipment. I thought it was a nice touch. And so I got on the internet and I found Atkinson maple syrup supplies up in Quebec, and ordered the maple syrup making equipment. Of course, when you order maple syrup making equipment, they assume that you know what you're doing, so it just comes with no instructions. Now, so therefore, we had the equipment, we had the motivation, we had the encouragement from our peers and colleagues to make the maple syrup. What we didn't have was the know-how. Well, we didn't really know what to do. Now, how you actually, I sort of knew theoretically, but since I'd never grown up making maple syrup, I didn't know what to do. So what did we do? We went out and got ourselves a how-to book on how to make maple syrup. And we probably, to the locals, this was probably fairly comical because, and I have to understand, we tapped 3 trees. My neighbor taps 1,000. But we tapped our 3 trees. And so Barbara's reading, and I'm drilling. And I'm saying, how deep? And then, of course, because we weren't exactly, so then I pulled the drill out, and the thing sap starts to come out. I'm yelling, the tree's bleeding! And she says, it is normal for the sap to come out. All right, now what does all this have? Well, go ahead to the tail of the tape. The tail of the tape is we trapped our 3 trees. We got 30 gallons of sap. 30 gallons of sap. Of course, then there's the boiling part. So we boiled it for 16 hours. 16 hours we boiled our sap, and we ended up with
1 gallon.
3 quarts.
They're so good.
No. So the answer is no, you are not getting any, even if you come to this. Now, what on earth does this have to do with this conference? Well,
why were you working?
Well, you make maple syrup in February. What on earth does this have to do with it? Well, it has to do with this. The evidence is very, very clear that managers are the single greatest influence on whether people get value out of, whether the company gets value out of training and development. Recent study at American Express came to the conclusion the manager can literally make or break any training program, okay, by his or her attention or inattention. You saw the little story I told on tape yesterday. So the question is this: if managers have a huge potential leverage on training and development, and everybody knows that. I mean, go back to Broad and Newsom's book in 1992. They concluded managers were the single greatest influence on whether training and development got transferred. Why don't managers coach more following training? Why don't they do more support after training? What do you think? Why don't managers do more support of training and development?
Because they're not paid for it.
Yeah, they're not incented.
Not paid, not incented, don't know how.
Not enough time.
Not enough time. Now, is it really true they don't have enough time?
They tell you. They don't make the time.
And what does it really mean?
They don't value it.
Doesn't make the priority list. I mean, everybody's got the same amount of time, right? 24 hours a day. And Drucker observed 20 years ago that managers are now so busy they can't, a manager can no longer do all that she or he has to do. They can't even do all that's important. They can only do what's the most important. And for the most part, it doesn't make the list of importance for a number of reasons. I'm not held accountable, I'm not incented, there's no pay in it. But also, I don't quite know how. I mean, everybody's telling me, Roy, sit down with them when they come back from training and ask and meet with them beforehand. But it's like me and the maple syrup. I didn't need a theory of maple syrup making. I didn't need a history of maple syrup. I just needed, you drill the hole, by the way, drill 7/16-inch hole. The tree has to be 10 inches in diameter. You drill it at about this height and you angle it slightly upward an inch and a half deep. Now, will I need the book next year? No. Oh, I might double check that I got the figures right. But, okay, so, but what I needed was how to. So that's what we realized, that part of why we don't get the coaching, or part of why we don't even get the participants doing as much as we like, is we just haven't been specific enough. I didn't need to know you drill a hole. I needed to know what size, how high, and what size tree. That's what I needed to know. So that was the origin of this whole thing.